At the recent Eastern Economic Forum in Russia, one of Vladimir Putin's closest advisors made a statement that captured international attention. He claimed that the United States is preparing to use cryptocurrencies and stablecoins as secret financial tools to devalue its massive national debt. According to him, Washington's ultimate goal is to move that entire debt into a digital crypto cloud, essentially resetting the global system and leaving the rest of the world holding the bill. Now, that might sound like a wild conspiracy theory, but this idea isn't entirely new. In fact, a version of it was once proposed by billionaire Michael Saylor, the CEO of MicroStrategy. He suggested that the US government should sell all its gold reserves and use the money to buy Bitcoin, arguing that it would completely destroy gold's position as a monetary asset while giving America an unbeatable advantage in the new digital financial order. His vision was simple. The United States would dominate both global capital and the digital reserve currency network of the future. So, how realistic is any of this? Could something like that actually happen? That's exactly what I, Andrei Jikh, want to break down for you today. We're going to explore what Putin's advisor actually said, how such a financial maneuver could work in theory, and what it could mean for the global economy if the US decided to devalue its debt using stablecoins or Bitcoin. The person behind those bold statements is Anton Kobyukov, a senior advisor to Russia's president who's been in that position for years. His job involves shaping Russia's message at major global events, like the Eastern Economic Forum. In his speech, he accused the United States of trying to rewrite the rules of the gold and crypto markets, claiming that the ultimate goal is to push the entire world into what he called the crypto cloud. Once that happens, according to Kobyukov, the US could move its massive $37 trillion debt into digital assets like stablecoins, and then intentionally devalue it. That, he said, would wipe the slate clean. But what does it actually mean to devalue the debt? Let's simplify this. Imagine the global economy is worth one single $100 bill. Now, let's say one country borrows all of it. Paying that back the hard way means working, producing, and returning the same money. But if that country controls the world's reserve currency, it doesn't have to pay the hard way. It can just create another $100 bill out of thin air. Now there's $200 in circulation, but the same amount of goods and services. Prices go up. Real estate, stocks, gold, groceries, everything becomes more expensive. That's inflation. And when that borrower pays the debt back with this new money, it looks like the debt was repaid in full. But in reality, the money being repaid is worth less than before. The debt was devalued. This isn't some new trick. It's one of the oldest financial strategies in history. The United States has used it for decades, after World War II, during the inflation of the 1970s, and again after the pandemic, when trillions of new dollars entered the system. Each time, more money chased the same amount of goods, reducing the dollar's purchasing power and, effectively, shrinking the real value of US debt. What's new today is the tool. According to Kobyukov, stablecoins and crypto could allow the US to expand this strategy globally. Stablecoins, digital tokens pegged to the US dollar and backed by assets like treasury bonds, can distribute US dollar liabilities all around the world via blockchain. When the dollar gets inflated, the loss in purchasing power is shared by everyone who holds those tokens. So, in a way, global users of dollar-backed stablecoins would help absorb part of America's inflation. That doesn't mean the US would literally convert its $37 trillion debt into stablecoins. It's more about the infrastructure. The more people worldwide use digital dollars like USDT or USDC, the more global demand there is for assets backed by US treasuries. Every time someone uses a stablecoin, they're essentially holding a digital IOU backed by American debt, meaning they're indirectly helping finance the US system even if they never buy treasury bonds. And this leads to something fascinating. Inflation becomes a global tax. As the dollar weakens, not only Americans but everyone holding digital dollars feels the same effect. Inflation is exported across the entire stablecoin network. Now, here's the genius of it. Stablecoins don't have to look political. Because they're issued by private companies, not directly by the US government or the Federal Reserve, they carry less political baggage. Under new US regulations, banks, trust companies, and even approved non-bank institutions can issue their own dollar-backed stablecoins. That means companies like Apple or Meta could technically create their own versions of the digital dollar. For Washington, that's a masterstroke. Instead of controlling every part of the system directly, it lets private companies build and operate the infrastructure, while the dollar quietly stays at the center. It's subtle. It's powerful. And it keeps the US in control. Meanwhile, the rest of the world isn't exactly cheering for this idea. Gold purchases have skyrocketed globally as countries try to escape the dollar's reach. They prefer gold, something tangible and politically neutral, over digital dollars issued by private US firms. Even though stablecoins are supposed to be backed one-to-one by real assets, it's nearly impossible to verify that with absolute certainty. The world has to trust American companies and their auditors, which, let's face it, is asking a lot in geopolitics. Even if blockchain technology eventually allows for real-time auditing, it doesn't solve the biggest issue. The US can always change the rules. Remember when the dollar used to be redeemable for gold? And then, in 1971, President Nixon just ended that promise overnight? That's why many nations simply don't trust that the same thing couldn't happen again, this time with digital dollars. So, will the US actually do this? Honestly, I think it's already happening, just not openly. The government isn't directly buying Bitcoin or stablecoins, but private corporations are. Look at MicroStrategy. The company has become a Bitcoin proxy, holding hundreds of thousands of BTC. So instead of the government buying Bitcoin directly and causing panic, it might just be letting private companies do it first. Later, if Bitcoin becomes globally strategic, the US could step in and take partial ownership, just like it's done in the past with key defense and tech firms. That's classic American strategy: let the private sector experiment and innovate. If it works, the government adopts it. If it fails, it was just a company. It's stealthy, it's smart, and it fits perfectly into how the US has always expanded its power, through the private market first. In conclusion, Putin's advisor may be exaggerating, but is not entirely wrong. The US has always managed its debt by expanding the money supply, and digital currencies could simply be the next chapter of that playbook. Stablecoins make it possible to distribute that inflationary pressure worldwide, while keeping the dollar as the backbone of the global economy. The tools may have changed: blockchain, stablecoins, Bitcoin, but the game remains the same. Control the money, and you control the world.